Agents Podcast.
I cannot think of a better guest to whip your asses into high gear than an ex-professional football player, and most specifically, a football player that played for the Miami Dolphins under Don Shula. And if you're a football fan, you already know what that means in the early 1980s, which included a Super Bowl. So without further ado, because there's nothing more that I can say that would top that, welcome Steve Shull to the show. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Well, I'm excited to be here and look forward to whatever comes next.
Well, obviously you have shifted careers, and you've segued into finance and then into real estate. Now you're a coach. You've coached thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of real estate agents. But before we get to the goods, which I know is going to be good, I got to hear about, what led you to where you are today. And we got to hear some football stories, because I assume you played with Dan Marino and the likes of that team, right?
Yeah, my rookie year, Bob Greasy was still the quarterback, and then David Woodley, and then my last year was Dan Marino's rookie year in the NFL.
That's amazing. So what years did you play in the NFL?
1980, 81, 82, and 83.
Awesome. Where'd you go to college?
College of William & Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah, not exactly what I would consider an NCAA
football powerhouse. Come on.
Maybe back then. I don't know.
No, not back then either.
That's cool. What position did you play?
Linebacker.
Oh, God. So, you literally, of all positions, it's the position that just has incredible power and speed and a combination of all the things. So I can see the segue here, because being a real estate coach does require various levels of all of those things. And so when you left the game, it was an injury that caused you to leave the game. Tell us what happened.
Well, it's an somewhat interesting story. Every year we would play the New Orleans Saints in a scrimmage. And the year before in the scrimmage, I hurt my knee. And it took me several weeks to recover. And then the following year, we're scrimmaging the Saints again. And I had a premonition something bad was going to happen. And we go through the scrimmage, and I'm done, and everything's great. Big sigh of relief. And someone else got hurt, and I had to go back in for one more play.
Oh, no.
And I'm diving over the top to make a tackle. Fullback hits me right in my knee with his helmet, and I flipped over. My leg whiplashed, and I tore 2 ligaments and cartilage. And that was, I tried coming back. The following year, I actually flunked my physical, which meant I'd be on the team for another year on injured reserve. Coach Shula picked up the phone, talked to the doctor. No, he passed. And so I was back on the field, and for 2 weeks, I was dragging around my leg, and I finally went into Shula and said, look, I'm going to get hurt again. I can't do this. And that was the end of my football career.
So there was no chance that you even figured, well, maybe I just need to give it more time to heal? You just said enough's enough?
No, back then the surgery, when you tore your ACL back then, it was a serious thing. They didn't have the technology that they had today. Normally be a 12-month, 18-month recovery if you recovered, and I just didn't recover from it.
And for those of you that aren't familiar, that 1982 team, was that the undefeated team?
No, that was in 72.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a little bit different. All right. That was a really big deal. But now it's funny that we're having this conversation, maybe not so funny. I don't know if you still follow and watch the NFL, but literally last night on one of the Monday Night Football games in in the end of the game, down by 10, really should have not had their starters in there. And a receiver, Chris Godwin, like his ankle was flipped the other direction. Of course, everybody was all over the coach after the game about that. It was interesting how and that's basically what happened to you, except even worse in a scrimmage. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, this is football. This stuff happens. You can try and protect yourself all you want, and they're doing that. The rules have changed quite a bit. The biggest hit I ever had was in the Super Bowl, and I would have been fined $100,000 for that. That hit in today's game, and so it's just a violent sport, and people don't realize. How much, how much, impact there is and what the players go through. It's, and there's just no way to avoid that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And in hindsight, do you feel like you're maybe fortunate that it happened and it happened for a reason and maybe it saved you from much worse injury? Because there's a lot of guys that came out of the 80s mentally, obviously with the concussion and all that kind of stuff. Do you ever feel fortunate that what happened to you happened?
It is what it is. It's as I get older, I have a different view on things. The prospect of losing my mind, with CTE or something like that, that's a scary thought. That's a really scary thought. And so I'm always checking myself to make sure this thing is working the way I need it to work. But life is filled with risk. There's no way to put yourself in a bubble. So I really value, the years that I, played 11 years total of football. I value those years, the lessons I learned. Playing with Don Shula, that's a once in a lifetime experience. And, the things I learned from football, I'm fortunate I'm able to apply all of it to what I do now. And I think that's what gives me a leg up as a real estate coach, because I really understand what team is about and I really understand what coaching is about. And great coaching makes a difference. There's a reason why Don Shula is the winningest coach in NFL history, because of the way he coached and his philosophies. And having been part of that, I try and impart that experience that I learned to the people I work with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great answer. Last question about sports is you mentioned the rule changes. Is today's athlete softer than the athlete from your years?
They're bigger, they're stronger. The plays that I see are ungodly. However, if you're getting a paycheck for $60 million a year, how hungry can you be? I don't mean to take away anything. Look at Tom Brady. I mean, that guy worked his butt off. My signing bonus, 1980, $500. My first year in the NFL, $25,000. My second year, $30,000. I had jobs in the off season. I worked at a racquetball court selling memberships. I worked in an advertising agency. We'd play in charity basketball games in the off season, and we would get paid $75 to play in these games, and we would all be fighting for a spot to get our $75. So, the economics were very different back when I played as compared to today. And, it's just, again, man, if what these guys are making it's truly phenomenal. Now, it's trickled down in the college athletes are getting paid big bucks. So yeah, I think it is impacting the sport in some ways.
Yeah. That's fascinating conversation. As you could probably already tell, I could have this conversation with you for hours, but that's not why you're here. Now,
okay.
You left the sport, you got injured. Where'd you go next?
So I went back to University of Miami. I got my MBA. And from there, I got a job on Wall Street. I got a job with Solomon Brothers on their government desk, right in the epicenter of the financial universe. And so that was quite the experience. And I did that for 5 years. And then through a series of events, I moved from the East Coast out to Southern California in 1991, and started selling residential real estate in Fullerton, California. And if anyone was around selling real estate in 1991, it was horrific. My first year in business, I was 6 months in with 40 listings and nothing under contract. That tells you how different things were. And I ended up in that first year selling 53 homes and was knocking 200 doors a day, calling every expired every day. What happened to me, I had listened to an interview, a Mike Ferry interview with two agents from Long Beach, California, Kim and Daryl Rouse, and they were in their second year of doing business, and they were on track to do 100 deals in their second year. And I listened to that interview, and it just clicked for me immediately. Real estate is a progression. Contacts equal leads, leads equal appointments, appointments equal listings, listings equal sales. I got that like instantly, and I didn't have a need to reinvent the wheel. I was going to these programs. I was watching these top producers on stage, and I just did what they were doing. I have a book out now called Real Estate is Not Rocket Science. Yeah. And the reason I titled it, because guess what? Real estate is not rocket science.
Yeah.
So then that, first year ended up closing 53 deals. Wow. My second year was on track to do 100. And that's when I came up with the idea of creating a coaching program in real estate. At that point in time, there was no such thing as coaching. There were plenty of real estate trainers, Mike Ferry, Floyd Wickman, and a host of others, and with no coaching per se. And so I went to Mike Ferry and said, here's my idea of creating a coaching program. I had partnered up with someone, and I said, what I did with this person, I think I can do with a lot of people. Mike said, great. And we went to Las Vegas, and we were speaking in an office, Coldwell Banker Premier. We signed up our first 9 clients for a coaching program. Then we went and did a bigger program in San Francisco. We signed up 90 people at that program, and I had to go back to the office and create a coaching program.
Oh man!
And the initial program was, it was a 15-minute phone call every other week. I created a sheet that people would fax me, their contacts, their appointments, their listings, their sales. And so it was a 15-minute phone call every other week. It was $100 a month. And that's how real estate coaching got started.
Wow. That's interesting. I actually didn't know that's how it got started in the industry. That's a strong claim. I mean, I guess this because you were working with the Ferries, for example, who are kind of the OGs of coaching. But there was literally no coaching prior to you guys kicking this off?
No, this is my idea. I started real estate coaching.
Wow. How long did you work with the Ferries? Do you still work with the Ferries?
No, I was there till 93 to 96. And in 1996, I formed my own company, Performance Coaching. Started coaching in 2007. I got together with 2 people in the industry, started a brokerage, Tellus Properties, did that for 5 years, maintained my coaching practice, and then left there in all in total, this is my 32nd year of coaching real estate agents.
That's wild. So literally, you were in your second year when you decided to do this. Did you not feel like, or did you have any concern that a lack of experience would devalue your credibility as a potential coach?
Never a thought.
That's just confidence.
There you go.
I like it. And so several questions to unpack from that. But when you went and created the coaching platform back then, and you had, it's funny, you mentioned faxing because that was mainstream. That was normal really until probably around 2007, maybe a little after that was still common. You were getting, I was in the mortgage business back then. You were getting rate sheets faxed over every day. You'd wait by the fax machine. I know to many people listening to this, they're thinking, oh my God, you guys are old. But it wasn't that long ago. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago. And so how would you say that the coaching that you built from day one differs from what it looks like today?
Well, it's 180 degrees different. Mike Ferry was a prospecting guy. He did not believe in repeat and referral business. And the way I learned real estate, when I got in, you had 4 choices: knock on doors, cold call, expired listings, for sale by owners. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else did not count. You couldn't do open house. You don't do open house. Past client, none of that counted. The only thing that counted was prospecting. And so there was no way I was going to cold call. And for sale by owners, that did not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form. And by default, that left knocking on doors and expired listings, both of which I did not want to do. Nobody wants to do this stuff. However, I from my sports background, I understood it's not about what you want to do. It's about what you have to do. So started out knocking 25 doors a day. And when I got to 25 a day, 5 days a week, then I bumped it up to 50. And when I got to 50, I bumped it to 75 and moved it all the way up to 200 doors a day. And then every day I would call every single expired listing. And if I, didn't reach them, I'd print out the expired listing on a paper, kept it on my desk, and would just call every expired every day until I either got a hard no or an interest. Back then, there was no such thing as a CRM. Did not exist. Had to go out, hire a computer programmer, cost $10,000 to build a CRM. He put that together. So we had that CRM. So all the leads that I got from knocking on doors and the expired listings all went into the CRM. I was just textbook right from the beginning. Put everybody in, put them on a program, knocked on my doors, called my listings, made my CRM calls every day.
And how different it was back then, because when you think about what a CRM does today, I would say it predominantly focuses on digital communication, whether it's text or email. And back then that didn't exist.
Didn't exist.
So it's like, I guess maybe writing letters, right? I mean, like mail.
Well, that's where I started. Again, dating myself. I'm an old man, 66 years old. In the beginning, we had a little index box with index cards, and then you had 1, 2, 3, 30 representing the 30 days of the month, and you would make your little note on the index card and put it in. And then, if it's the 5th day of the month, you pull out the cards. And when I got a lead at the door, I'd write a handwritten note. In fact, eventually, that's why I ended up hiring someone to build this program, because I had too many notes to write every single day. It got too time consuming. So, technology today for today's agents, it's not different in the sense of what it does. It just does it so much, in such a better way and so streamlined. And getting back to your question, what's different, what I've learned over this 32-year period of time is that real estate is a repeat and referral business. And that's what I coach to every single day. It's not about prospecting. It's not about getting new people. It's about building a repeat and referral pipeline. And this business, again, when I first got in, it was all about how many people you could talk to every day. It was all about contacts. And one of the great things when I got into the business, right or wrong, Mike had this thing: if you weren't selling 50 homes a year, you were a piece of crap. You were worthless. You did not exist. And so I got it drilled into me, hey, you got to sell 50 homes a year. And the way to sell 50 homes a year, you got to talk to 50 people a day. Not easy. Not easy, anyone. No. All right. So, that was my training. Today, it's all about staying in touch with the people you know and the people that you've done business with. So it's a very different way. It's all about, rather than going out and making contact, it's about cultivating relationships. So my coaching practice is evolved 180 degrees from where I began.
Yeah.
However, it was a good beginning because it really taught me the fundamentals. Yeah. There's nothing, anyone who's listening to this, whether, you're new, whether you're 10 years in, whether you're 30 years in, there's nothing comfortable about real estate. Yeah. Nothing. Everything that you have to do in order to be successful in this business, it's uncomfortable. Whether you're knocking on a door, whether you're making a cold call, calling expired listing, whatever you're doing there, or cultivating relationship. That, it's not natural to, take someone who's a complete stranger, do a deal with them, and then form an ongoing relationship. That takes a big commitment of your time, your effort, your energy. So there's nothing in this business that's comfortable. Yeah. And that's where I feel like I had a leg up on people, because in sports, there's nothing comfortable. You got to go to practice every day. You've got to do the things that you don't want to do in order to get better. And so that's life.
Yep. That's why the majority of our industry would not qualify in that 50 transaction. So the vast majority of this industry effectively is a failure in that regard. And I'm really glad that we touched on this, because there's probably a lot of people listening to this that are fairly mind blown, because these are not topics that we necessarily discuss today. But I think it's important and it's relevant, because there's a lot of agents, humans in general, just bitching about the way the world is today and how hard it is. And when you really put the context to it, and you talk to somebody who's been around the block, and you talk about how it used to be and how many trees you had to kill just to maintain your database that now is effectively done for them, and they can ask a robot to do half their job for them. Anybody who bitches about how hard it is today, frankly, and I'll say it, you don't have to, can kiss my ass, because it was a lot harder back in the day than it is today. Now, there's probably more competition, but if you just work hard, and I'm sure you can attest to this, you're going to have a leg up, because very few people want to put in the effort. And that's where I want to segue this conversation is, you were a pioneer. You were a pioneer for coaching. You were a pioneer that I think a lot of agents don't even realize was pioneered, which is to focus on your past customers, which I think today is what the majority of agents do. You ask most agents, they say their business is derived from referrals, right?
Yeah,
that's their sphere.
I want to jump in there.
Please.
And that's reality. If any agent goes out and they look at where their business comes from, 50% or more, some is going to be 60, 70, 80, 90, some is going to be close to 100%, is repeat and referral. Yet, so many agents are still focused on trying to go get new business. And, CRM is your most powerful business building tool, and yet it is the most underutilized tool in this business. It's, with CRM, when I always used to marvel at CRM, because for most agents, CRM was just a dumping ground. Just put everything in your CRM, no matter where you get it from, no matter what it is, stick it in there. Every once in a while, send out a mass generic email, and then hope and pray you get some response. That's how most people use their CRM. And that's not how you use CRM. There's 3 parts to CRM. And everyone needs to listen to this. Part number 1, get the right people in. Well, who are the right people? The right people are the people that you're committed to reaching out every 90 days in person or by phone. Text and email don't count. I've got to be willing to pick up the phone or go meet this person every 90 days. That's the only people that get in my CRM. That's part 1. If I'm not committed to reaching out every 90 days, then they don't get in my CRM. Part 2, I've got to get everybody on the right cadence. And for the people you know and the people you've done business with, every 90 days. That's the cadence. And so I've got to be committed. And in the CRM, you set it up that way. And every 90 days, you're reminded. You don't have to remember everything. And then the third part of CRM, it tells you who to contact every day. And guess what? Those are the people you have to contact. So you have to put a time block in your schedule every day, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, depending on how many people you have in your CRM. And you don't need thousands, everybody. 250, 500, more than enough. And every day at the allotted time, you have to make your calls. That is real estate 101. And if you do that, if everyone listening, I know you don't believe me. I know you're going to say, that's not enough. There's not enough business there. Well, guess what? You haven't done it, so you can't make that statement. And don't tell me you have, because I've been doing this 32 years. I know who you are. However, when you do a CRM the way I'm outlining it, you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to do anything else. You can, and I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying you don't have to.
Yeah. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's the best CRM?
The obvious answer is the one that you use. That's the best one.
Yep.
The one that we recommend is, if you're at Compass, they have their own. Some companies have their own CRM.
Yep.
And if I'm at Compass, I'm going to use the Compass CRM. If I'm not there, the one we recommend is Follow Up Boss.
Got it. Which our audience is very familiar with. So that's not anything new. Now,
right.
As we talk about doing, CRMing, we'll use that as a verb.
Right.
You mentioned, it's not about the quantity of people you have in the CRM. And that really is typically a product of your experience or years in the business. The longer you've been in the business, the more people you're going to have in the CRM. But so the agent listening to this that might be relatively new, that's only done a handful of transactions over a couple of years, or 10, 15 transactions, doesn't come from a massive sphere of influence. How do you talk them off the ledge or the objection of saying that I don't CRM because I've only got 50 people to put in it? It just doesn't seem like it's worth it.
Right. And what I say to that person is, then you don't understand that this is a repeat and referral business. And if you just put one person, think about this. If I put one new person in my CRM per day, at the end of year 1, I have 200 people in my CRM. So in 1 year, and all of you can add one person into your CRM. There's one person that you're going to run into in a day that you can put into your CRM. And if you can't do that, then don't be in real estate, because that's what the business is. It's a relationship-driven business fueled by human connection. That's what this is.
Yeah. So where does somebody go find that person a day? Because now that becomes prospecting.
At the coffee shop, in the grocery store, at school, you're a human being. You're out and about. You're in the world.
Yeah.
And again, if you're going to be in real estate, you've got to talk to people. That's the number one skill you have to have in this business. You can't be a secret agent. There's only a few people, and I've worked with some, that they're not talking to anyone, and they're really great at what they do. But for the other 99.9%, you've got to go out and talk to people. That's just part of being in the game.
Yep, 100%. Now, conversely, for the agent who's been around the block for a long time, never really fully embraced the CRM, and so what holds them back is the time that it's going to take to set up said CRM. What is your response to the person that is holding them back?
What you're doing now by not using your CRM is holding you back way more than the time it would take. Again, this is not hard, man. This is easy stuff. And the reason why people don't do it, the reason why they procrastinate, is because they don't want to be in a relationship. They again, it's not natural. It's not natural. It's not comfortable. However, if you don't understand what the business is, and again, go out, survey all the top producing agents, look at source where their business is coming from, and you're going to see again and again and again, it is a repeat referral business. So understand what the business is so you can leverage it.
Yeah.
There's only so many hours in a day. You can only do so many things. And this is a big focus. Gary Keller, he said it in The One Thing. The most important thing to do every day is always the most important thing to do. And it's not about getting everything done every single day. It's about getting the most important thing done every day. And in real estate, the most important thing is cultivating relationship.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And so anyone listening, understand this is your job. Real estate agent, job description, cultivate relationship.
Yeah.
That's the job.
Yep. Yeah. And you probably do an episode just talking about this in general. And I think a lot of agents probably need to hear this, but sadly, I think the idea of where and how to cultivate is probably under-discussed because we tend to always jump ahead to the thing that you should be doing after you have it. And as you mentioned, coffee shop, school, you didn't mention what's behind me, which there's tons of cultivation that can happen on social media if you use it correctly. B&Is, networking groups, like you've got to put yourself out there. And I think it's undervalued, probably under talked about, but you just gave a very powerful nugget to everybody listening to this who is struggling and I want you to repeat those numbers. You should add one person to your CRM. How many days a week? How many days?
One a day. After year one, you got 200 people. You got 200 people, you're good to go. You're good to go. And there's 8 billion people on planet Earth. Go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
They're out there.
And that's if you're doing it half-assed and not even doing it 7 days a week, because 200 days is less than slightly under 5 days a week for the entire year. It shouldn't be that difficult. And if you put yourself in the right rooms, you should be adding 2, 3, 4 people in that one day.
Right. If you're, the challenge agents have, and again, this is the advantage when you play professional sports. You learn it's not about your feelings. You don't do things based on how you feel. You do things that need to be done, period. And that's just life. There's no way getting around this. If you think, I played in a Super Bowl I worked on Wall Street, Solomon Brothers, epicenter of the financial universe. If you think I wanted to be knocking on doors in Fullerton, California, in August, in a suit and tie, sweating like a pig, if you think I wanted to do that, guess what? You are wrong. I never wanted to knock on a single door. If you think I ever wanted to pick up a phone and call an expired listing when they're getting 100 other phone calls from another 100 agents, if you think I ever wanted to do that once, guess what? You are wrong. Yeah. It's not about what you want to do. It's about what needs to get done. And I'm not making this up. This is just what the business is, period. And if you don't want to do this, then don't be in real estate. There's no way around this. There's no magic pill. There's no shortcut here. This is the business.
Yeah. So just to stay on this topic, because I think this has been a powerful one, as it relates to the CRM. Now, can you go a little bit deeper for someone who says, all right, Steve, sold. Like, I've not done it. I'm going to apply some of these basic principles. I'm going to take this serious. Now, can you give me a recommended cadence?
Every 90 days. Every 90 days.
Which is what? Just one touch?
One touch.
That's it.
That's it.
No emails, no texts, no.
No, I mean, you can do all those things and there's nothing wrong. However, I'm a big believer in the basics. I'm a big believer in the principle of reduction, meaning stop watering down your life with all this meaningless stuff that doesn't amount to anything and boil it down to what's most essential. And if I reach out by phone or in person every 90 days, and if I get a voicemail, I'm leaving a message. Hi, it's Steve, just checking in to see how you're doing. If you're not too busy, feel free to reach out. And that counts. That's my 90-day check-in. And I can follow that up with a text or an email. However, I got to pick up the phone, and all of you people who say nobody, uses the phone anymore, bullshit. All right? Call me old school, call me whatever you want. It's a relationship business. You got to talk to people. So pick up the phone or see them in person every 90 days. If I do that, I'm good to go. And all right, next question. What do you say? You say hello. That's what you say. It's not a real estate call. It's a human being call. You're right. Checking in. If they want to talk real estate, they're going to bring it up with you. All right. You're not calling for a referral. You're not calling to get business. You're actually checking in. Why? Because it's a relationship, and that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Look at it like you're a friend.
All it is.
Treat them like a friend. Now, do you believe in the intricacies of again, CRMing to the point where, Steve, you're my client. I know you're a big Miami Dolphins fan. I have that in my notes somewhere. The Miami Dolphins happen to have a good year, not this year, but let's just hypothetically, and you're in the playoffs, you go to the Super Bowl. Are you pulling from things like that to enhance maybe the communication or the relationship that you might have with somebody by knowing, when their birthday is, when their anniversary was, what their pets' names were, what their kids' sports are they're into, what their hobbies are, what their favorite sports teams are? Do you preach anything like that, or is that something that's really too advanced beyond what is necessary?
I'm just happy if they have a CRM. Okay. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, I will say this, having the home anniversary date in there and having that in there, yes, I vote for that. Having a birthday, that's a good thing also. However, I in all seriousness, if I just reach out every 90 days by phone or in person, that's all I need to do. Everything beyond that is extra. And I don't want the extra things to get in the way of doing what's most important. And I haven't had a to-do list in over 20 years. And, I see agents all the time with, these to-do lists a mile long. And it's not your to-do list. It's your list of things that you're never going to do. And you just keep writing down one thing after another that you're never going to do. And understand that everything on your to-do list is screaming at you, when are you going to get to me? When are you going to get to me? And it's sucking life out of you. And again, one of my life lessons, the conclusion that I've come to is if I can't remember to do it, then guess what? It's not that important.
Yeah.
It's not that important. The other thing that I've learned is if I get to the end of the week and something's not done, that just means, again, it wasn't that important. Again, and Gary, I give Gary Keller credit here. All things don't matter equally. All things don't matter equally. The goal every day is not to get everything done. The goal every day is to get one thing done. What's most important? And I'm going to hammer this point home. What's most important in real estate is cultivating a relationship. As long as I'm doing that every day, and I got to do it in a time block, can't just do it whenever I feel like it, because it's not going to happen. If you would see my calendar, every 30 minutes is time blocked, Monday through Friday. And, most people will look at my calendar and say, oh my God, that's the worst thing in the world. To me, it's total freedom, because every day I wake up, I don't have to think about what I'm going to do today. It's right in front of me. It's right in front of me. And that's what's most important. And then all the work things that I have to do, I do in between an appointment. Meaning, if a call ends a minute early, I've got 60 seconds to get something done. I get all my work done in those gaps during the day. So I'm a big, big believer in time block.
Yeah. Again, we're going back to real estate is not rocket science. Now, one of your other books is called The Full Fee Agent, which is super relevant topic in today's world based on what's happened over the last 12 months. And, one of your interview topics that your team shared with me was, how to be a full fee agent, or how to talk to agents about commission, which has become a very hot topic. And I would argue some agents are probably tired of hearing about it. Some agents probably haven't applied enough attention to it. What is your advice to an agent who's struggling in this quote unquote new world that now has been created?
What I truly believe is this is an incredible time to raise your fees. If you weren't getting a full fee before, the door is wide open now to getting a full fee. Think about a seller. They're used to paying 5%. Now let me back up for a second. This is a passion of mine. Getting agents paid their full fee. This is, of all the things I coach to, this is probably one of the most important things that I coach to. And I've been doing this for a long time. And let me say this. Every agent who's getting a full fee, and I look at a full fee as 6% or more, keeping 3.5% on the listing side. That's what I call a full fee. Every agent who gets a full fee does so in a market where everyone else is charging less. I want to be very clear about that. There's nobody getting a full fee because everyone else is charging that. The people who are getting, we're getting 6, that are getting 3.5, they do it in a market where everyone else works for less. So let's be very clear about that. This is not market specific. And what people don't understand about commission, it's not based on your value and it's not based on your ability to articulate your value. I wrote The Full Fee Agent with Chris Voss, and many of you may know Chris from, he's the author of Never Split the Difference.
Mm-hmm.
And over 9 years ago, one of my clients gave me that book. They went to a book signing in Malibu, and Chris was there, and they got me a signed copy. What drew me in was the title of the book, Never Split the Difference. Because what does every real estate agent do?
Mm-hmm.
They split the difference. That's how they put every deal together. And so I started reading this book, and boom, epiphany. And the epiphany was that you can't overcome emotion with fact, logic, and reason. And I had been doing the exact opposite. I was the guy, I was 25 years into my coaching when I read this book. And I was the guy who was always trying to take all the emotion out of real estate and boil everything down to fact, logic, and reason. Every script, and I've written more dialogue than anyone in real estate. Every script was that way: fact, logic, and reason. Lead people to an inescapable conclusion. And when I read this, man, I did a 180 in 1 second. I completely changed my whole philosophy of coaching. And I reached out to Chris. This book was about, Chris was a former hostage negotiator, the lead international hostage negotiator for the FBI.
Wow.
And everything that he wrote about in this book applies to real estate 100%. If you haven't read the book, you need to go read the book. Never Split the Difference. So I reached out to Chris, and I said, Chris, everything you wrote about in this book applies to real estate. I'd love to partner up with you. And he said, great. And we started our first 8-week negotiation course, and that led to Chris and I collaborating and writing the book, The Full Fee Agent. And the point I want to make, one of the things that Chris taught me is the concept of the favorite and the fool. And what people don't realize in real estate, this entire industry is built on a false premise. And that premise is, and all of you are thinking this way, all of you think you win or lose business based on your ability to articulate your value to a buyer or a seller. Just look at all the training around the NAR settlement. Articulate your value. You got to articulate your value. You got to articulate your value. Bullshit. I love the curse. Sorry.
Welcome. It's welcome.
When you get that phone call that all of you want to get, hi, we're thinking about selling our home, and we'd love for you to come out and speak to us. All of you, when you get that phone call, this is what I live for. And you're going to spend 2 hours or more preparing for that appointment. You're going to drive out to that appointment. You're going to take a tour of the home, and depending on the size of the home, it's going to be 15 minutes to an hour or more touring the home. Then you're going to sit down in their living room, and you're going to pull out your pretty presentation, because every company now has a presentation. When I started in the business, you had to put all this stuff together yourself. Mm-hmm. And then you're either going to go through a informal presentation or a very formal presentation. 2 hours later or more, they're going to say to you, thank you so much. You've given us everything to think about. Let us process, and we'll get back to you. And you leave that appointment, oh my God, did I get it? Did I not get it? and you beat yourself up all the way on the drive home. Why did I say that? I should have said this. All this nonsense. And then for 24 hours or 48 hours or 72 hours or longer, you're on pins and needles. And then your cell phone rings. And you see it's them. And your heart starts beating. Steve, it was a really hard decision.
Oh, boy.
You gave us so much to think about. You did an incredible job. However, we've decided to go in a different direction. And you're heartbroken. You're devastated.
Yeah.
You were counting on that commission. Guess what, everyone? When they called you, they already knew who they were going to list with, or they were leaning strongly in a direction. You're either the favorite, meaning they want to work with you, or you're the fool in the game. You are simply due diligence. And through Chris, we now teach a way of getting to the same outcome that takes you 10 hours or more to get to. We get to that same outcome on a Zoom call or a phone call in 15 minutes, give or take. Not talking about price, not talking about home preparation, and not talking about marketing. The idea of that is absurd. I know all of you are sitting out there thinking this guy is nuts. And you would be right. I am nuts. However, I also know what I'm talking about. And, we're into doing this for over 8 years now. And the clients who take the coaching are in a 15-minute Zoom call or phone call. They find out whether they're the favorite or the fool.
And this is before,
I don't go to the house.
this is replacing
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
go to the house.
Yeah.
I've never seen the house. I've never met these people if I haven't done business with them.
And so what does that 15-minute phone call entail?
I'm glad you asked. Okay. There's a framework to the call, and the framework is simple. Is there a deal here? Is there a deal here with me? Do I want this deal? The progression of the phone call is this. You're going to start out asking them, tell me a little, let's say it's the seller, tell me a little bit more about what's going on. First of all, let me back up. When I get that phone call and they're saying, we'd like you to come out to the house, great. I'd love to do that. However, if it's not too much trouble, and we can either do it right now or we can do it at a more convenient time, would it be impossible to set up a quick 15-minute Zoom call so I can get a better idea of what's going on? Notice how I phrase that. If it's not impossible, we call that a no-oriented question. All of you, when you ask your questions, you're all trying to get to yes. What you don't understand, when you're asking a question where you're trying to get a yes answer, you're actually creating resistance. You always want to formulate your questions in a way to elicit a no response that serves you. No makes people feel safe and protected. So anyway, when I say, would it be impossible to set up that call? That's my first indication of whether I'm the favorite or the fool. If I get pushback, if they don't want to set up the appointment, okay, you just come out. That's a clear sign I'm probably the fool in the game. And I'm going to explore that right then and there, because if I'm the fool in the game, guess what? I'm not going on the appointment. When you're the favorite, your chances of getting the listing are 80% or greater. When you're the fool in the game, your chances of getting the listing are 20% or less. If I only have a 20% chance, I'm not going on the appointment at all. So, assuming they say, yes, we can do that, the progression of the call, I'm going to ask them a little bit more about what's going on. I'm going to find out what is the dream, what is the fantasy. If they could win the lottery, what would that look like? Then I'm going to get into, okay, now that we know what you really want, what are you actually hoping for? And hope is the fantasy tinged with some reality. And what I'm trying to figure out here, is this person realistic or not? So we're going to talk about the dream. We're going to talk about the hope. I'm going to summarize what I hear. It sounds like what you're saying is X, Y, and Z to make them feel understood. Now I'm going to go to what would be the nightmare outcome? What would be the worst possible outcome? What is the thing that you most want to avoid? Why this is important is fear of loss is the biggest motivator of human behavior. Now I'm really going to find out what's motivating them. So I'm going to get into the dream, the hope, then the nightmare. Then I'm going to get into the role of the real estate agent. What do they see the role of the real estate agent? Then I'm going to ask what we call proof of life question. I'm curious, of all the agents you could have reached out to, why me? And now we're going to get to the truth. I'm either going to get a robust response to that. You sold our neighbor's home. They raved about you. We went on your website. We read your testimonials. We love everything you do. Ding, ding, ding. I'm probably the favorite. Versus, oh, we got a piece of, got a postcard in the mail. We were driving in the neighborhood. We saw your sign. We were throwing darts at the dartboard. Your name came up. Ding, ding, ding. Probably fooling the game. And so based on the information that I've gathered so far, I'm going to say either, at the risk of not wanting to be presumptuous, would it be wrong to assume that you would like to work together? Now there's only two responses. No, absolutely want to work together, or anything else.
Yep.
So I'm going to find out, or if I think I'm the fool in the game, I'm going to say, at the risk of putting you on the spot, would it be wrong to think that you're probably leaning in the direction of another agent? I'm not afraid of the truth. Why? Because I'm either the favorite or I'm the fool. It has nothing to do with me convincing them of why they should work with me.
Yep. And this 15-minute phone call is not only a massive time saver, it's obviously going to create that efficiency and effectiveness to allow you to probably work through even more clients, correct? I mean, it's,
How damaging is it to get that phone call, prepare, go out to the property, tour the home, give a presentation, wait to get an answer, and not get the listing? What does that do to, your guts?
Yeah.
Tears you up.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Well, we are running up against the clock, and
You're up against the clock.
I feel like there's a lot more to cover here. So I want to first say this. Obviously, you've mentioned this. You've authored several books. I've mentioned The Full Fee Agent. We mentioned Real Estate is Not Rocket Science. You've also got the Real Estate Team Playbook.
Correct.
If somebody wanted to connect with you and they're just thinking to themselves, Steve, I need more. I need more. How do I connect with you? How do I get into your circle? What is the best way to do so?
Just email support@performancecoaching.com and we'll point you in the right direction.
Okay. And if somebody wants to try to get to you specifically, is there a way to do so?
Support@performancecoaching.com.
I love the consistency. Are you on social media?
I am.
Where can they find you? Where can they follow you?
Instagram.
Instagram, and it's
Shull, I think it's Shull Performance Coaching.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was going to answer that for you. And you have a website, performancecoaching.com.
Performancecoaching.com. A lot of great information there. All our programs. Can download free chapters of each book. A lot of information there.
What would be your best parting thoughts to leave with our audience today?
The most important thing is to understand that you are good enough. That is the most important thing. This idea, and we all have it, that somehow we're not good enough. Everything bad that happens in our life emanates from that false belief. You've got to learn who you really are. Most people will go through their entire lives not understanding who they really are. And it's not who you think you should be. Who you are is so much greater than who you're trying to be. So that's my parting thought for everybody.
Steve, it has been an absolute pleasure and an excellent conversation, and it is very clear that your passion shines through, and I'm sure your coaching clients can probably attest to the power of what they receive when they work closely with you. So I hope some of our listeners follow through and reach out to you and get their ass kicked by a former NFL linebacker.
Thank you, bud. Thank you very much for having me today. Greatly appreciate it.
Lab Coat Agents Podcast.